So that's been kind of fun. I first came about the 9by9 last year as they were just getting ready to launch their first report on gender parity in Asia. And I was intrigued because I know at WOMAG we have tried to do that to get data on our industry and the level of that diversity in our industry. So just curious to see how what findings they were getting from throughout Asia, especially. And so that's why we arranged for this special guest today, April Hu. Needs no introduction. You've seen her bio, but just quickly, she's a co-founder of 9by9, and she'll tell you more about that. But she's an American Chinese woman and born and raised in California from a long line of educators. So you saw that she's done some really amazing thing from developing an online MBA program to working with the educating rural women and rural girls in China. And so she's done quite a diverse, quite a diverse career. But today what she's going to focus on is she's going to share with us the study that 9by9 released and looking at really specifically women across 6 countries here in Asia. And then we'll be able to talk about what are some of the actions that we can take on if we want to see gender parity in women or gender parity here in Asia. So without further ado, April, I'd like to hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, Jessica, the WOMAG team. And I already recognize a few members that I named, so thanks for joining. Just to say, WOMAG, I do have some flowers here. Of course, my share screen, my background is covering it. But just to say that this is actually an interactive section, and this is, and I really wanted to give you a lot of data, but it's actually also in our report. So, so without further ado, I'm going to kick off 9 Truths and 9 Action. First of all, is to say, who am I? Thank you, Elizabeth, for your introduction. And really about who am I and how 9by9. I am originally from California. I have been in Asia for 30 years and now in Singapore for 11. And last year, in the, I see as a silver lining of our sort of everything closing down, I really was astounded at some of the disparity of the haves and have-nots. And one of them is about gender parity. And so last year, together with one of my best friends, Christine Fellows, who is CEO of NBC Asia Universal, we co-founded 9by9. And what is 9by9? It's about doing 9 things over the next 9 years. By 2030, which is the year that the United Nations SDG number 5 has defined as gender parity. That's just 9 years away from now. And so we decided to do something that is really concrete about coming up with action that can actually really achieve that ambitious SDG goal. And we should say we will be doing it, particularly about Asia. So I am a WOMAG. I'm a scientist, nature girl at heart. So I'm, again, really excited to be sharing some hard data and also some of my insight about what it takes to shift this gender parity challenge. First of all, stepping back. So why? Why is it important? And there are actually many studies out there from just why a more inclusive workforce is better. But there is the dollar figures. This is from McKinsey 3 years ago, but they actually demonstrated that with greater involvement of people of all gender, there is $4.5 trillion that can be added to the Pacific economies, which is also the beginning of the Asia century. And so just bearing that in mind, there are dollars and cents about why we actually want to do this. So let me talk about the research. I really wanted something that is science. We have a lot of anecdotal talk and just like, oh, this and that and my personal experience. But I really believe in, let's just go and find the data. So we worked with Cadence, and which is an award-winning Asia-based market research company. And we did 3 steps. We did a literature review. We went and looked at all the existing documents, reports, studies, ranging from McKinsey to BCG to the World Economic Forum Gender Index to working with the Yale NUS interns and academics. And we identified 46 factors that actually can affect what is gender parity. With this data, we then did a survey. We went and surveyed in the region 3,000 women in 6 countries, 8 cities. And you can see China, Japan, India, Indonesia, Singapore, and Hong Kong. They were all working women that are aged 21 to 55 and from all industries. And furthermore, and this was done from last year, I think June till July. And through that, we used 4 languages, Chinese, actually traditional Chinese, simplified Chinese, Bahasa, and Japanese. And we collected anonymous 3,000 surveys. We collected 7,500 stories, huge number of data points. And from that, we then analyzed it and created a report. After that report and the findings, we then actually checked with best practice experts in the region. And we had a roundtable. We invited senior DEI experts and HR practitioners from Goldman Sachs, TikTok, BASF. Any of you guys from BASF here? Netflix, Grab. And it was, these were organizations, as you can see, most MNCs in Asia, but we also did check with SCAs and also with government and academic institutions in Asia. So with all of that rich scientific data, we then created and identified 9 truths. Just to bear in mind, any questions you have, throw it up, but I'm just going to rush through this because all of this is in our report, 90-page report that you can download at our website, 9by9. All right, so there are 9 truths. And again, I'm just going to just quickly highlight the main points, and I'm going to talk particularly about the red lines that I've pinpointed for to talk about. So the 9 truths are sobering, but probably not surprising. Number 1 was we found 80% of the women actually did not think there's an issue about gender parity. They didn't think that they had lower pay. They didn't think they actually had reduced opportunities to be promoted. But the fact is that there is 15 to 20% gap difference, pay gap difference, and there's less than 20% that are in management, and particularly in senior management, and even fewer at board level. I don't know how many of you are here from Singapore, but just in Singapore, there is an existing pay gap of 6% across the board between men and women holding the same job. And you could take a look there. There are growing numbers of women in senior management, but it is still in the minority. The number 2 fact is that in our survey, we did something quite different. We actually asked people to share in their own words a positive story. And in that is huge telling. We found that only 1 out of 5 women across the region even had a positive story to talk about. And I'll later on talk about what were those stories. But most of them were quiet. And it was even more interesting is the range, is the country difference. In China and Japan, only 1 out of 10 women had a positive story to share, whereas 1 out of 3 in Indonesia and India. There could also be traditional cultural nuances here, which again, I'll be talking about later. The 3rd truth is that 3/4 of the women don't see gender equality as an issue, as their own personal issue at the workplace. In fact, 1 out of 4 don't even know how to contribute to gender equality. The 4th truth is that women felt that if they were to talk about gender equality and push for gender equality, they would actually have serious repercussions on their progression at work. That's 65%. The 5th truth, these are now some more positive ones, is that 80% of the women are working because they believe in growth. to personal growth of job title, to personal branding, to maybe starting their own business. So it's a very healthy motivation of why women are working. And we actually found that women, this is truth number 6, is after women return to the workforce and start a family, they are actually twice as committed to the company growth as women who have without children. And this really dispels the myth that actually women with children are less desirable for a company. Remember that 4.5 trillion we're talking about. You know, women with children are more loyal and more committed to company growth. Then we also found that there's a lot of differences nuances amongst these 6 countries that we looked at, and particularly towards leadership. The women in China and Japan were least likely in wanting to become, sorry, apologies. The China and India women were particularly interested to aspire to leadership positions, while Japan was least likely. And then the 8th truth is that managers who actively support gender parity, the individuals 8 out of 10 are more loyal, and which means the manager's role is extremely critical. And from all our studies is that majority of the managers are men. And then finally, the last one is about unconscious bias, is that, you know, more than half, 70% in China and more than half in India and in Singapore feel that they actually have to hide themselves as women in order to be able to work, to be able to perform at the workplace. And this 9th truth, I think, is actually the most telling one, and I want to really highlight it, is that the biggest hurdle, in fact, for gender parity is unconscious bias. This is a very common word now. So bias, the bias is idea about having, I think we just.
Sorry, April, I was going to say.
Major stuff. Okay.
Yeah. I made a mistake of not starting with a poll, but then it's good because we actually have 3 times as many people as when we started with 20 something people. So if you don't mind, this might be a good transition to do the poll and then transition to the actions.
Sounds good. Yes. Yeah.
Shall we do that?
Absolutely.
We'll run the poll, Jessica.
Yeah. The purpose of the poll is actually identify your bias. So, all right, let's do the poll. Thank you.
Yeah. Now we have our life goals poll. So please click in.
Do we have everybody?
Yeah, we have around 30. So let's just wait 5 more seconds. It seems that everyone is really eager to click this. Okay, so I think, yeah, you should.
We can close
now.
Okay. Yeah. Where is everybody in their life goals?
Yeah, here's the results.
Family and marriage, number 1, career and work, number 2, and learning skills and development, number 3, April. Although closely behind that also is mental well-being.
Great. All right.
And the second one, shall we go to the second question?
Yeah.
Just a moment. Yes, here we go. We have the second poll now.
What are the top 3 ways you experience gender equality in your workplace? So
that's right.
Your workplace.
Yeah, I see people are very eager to answer these questions also. So let's wait for 5 more seconds and we'll close the poll. Yeah, so we have the result here.
Career progression and opportunities, number 1. Recognizing my achievements, number 2. And company culture, number 3.
That's so great. Thank you.
Behind that, yeah, the power of my voice. Back to you, April.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So this is I don't know I'm assuming many of the group here are from Singapore. I don't know if I could some way figure that out, but let me now talk about our the 9 truths I just whipped through is now the 9 action. And this is really helpful to just get a sense of where you guys are in terms of the life goals and the gender equality, which is really shared by those in our survey. So let's see. Can I get down? I'm unable to get to the next. There we are. Okay. So how do we create change? Right. Enough talking. Let's talk about what is the change. This is kind of a busy slide, so let me just break it down. Is that we found through our data points and research and engagement of the DI experts, is that there are 3 stakeholders that will drive gender parity. They are the left column. They're driven by organizations, they're driven by managers, and they're driven by women. These are the 3 stakeholders. We identified 9 actions, and please bear with me. So let's just look at the top row. I wish I had a pointer, but anyway, here the top row. Oh, does this work? Can you see my pointer? Does that work? So here is that driven by organizations, there are 3 actions. To have visible proof. This is actually about having women actually in the workplace. Oops. There's actually creating specific policies such as parental leave policies, and also having male allies. These are the 3 actions driven by organization. The next row, the gray row, is basically looking at managers having the terminology about equality, recognizing contribution. This is one of the second goals that you guys had mentioned about gender indicators for gender parity. And third is about work-life balance. And then finally is for the woman herself. And I know there are men in the group also. So basically by the individual is really being clear about your personal belief, having role models, and being able to raise important topics. Now, you see here a conglomerate percentage of what we found as these different factors. And if you could see, the managers actually play the most important role, and then the organizations, and least is actually the women themselves. So I'm going to now spend the next 3 slides going into each row. And again, I'm going to go quite quick, but I really wanted to highlight the nuances of different countries and of course the different industries. So this here, is this screen blocking you guys? Here. So just to show you, so this is by the 6 countries, and this is the stakeholder of the organization. Look at the blue arrow. China, 49%, Indonesia, 61%, and Hong Kong, 53%. These countries indicate that the organization has to be clear about their policies and visible indicator and involvement of male allies to make a difference for gender parity. The next level is the influence by the managers, and it's a big whopping 60% in India, where the managers predominantly are men, are the ones who can influence gender parity. And finally, we look at the individual, and here's Singapore, where there was more sense of having control over having gender parity, and all the other countries are quite low, and it's reflected by the weighting of the different stakeholders. So this here is the so data heavy layout of what it takes for the different stakeholders, what changes are needed for them in order to make to influence gender parity. And again, all of this is actually in our report, but it's to show, to me, my biggest takeaway is that the manager, to work with the manager, to train and increase awareness for the manager is the most important than the organization. And in fact, for the woman herself, the individual herself is actually quite low. So, so despite you guys, we're all talking here, individuals, the call is really to you if you're a manager and if you are, particularly if you're a leader in an organization, which leads to this is my final content slide, is as a leader in the organization, these are areas to look at. Is your gender parity policy about inclusion and belonging, or are you really just trying to hit diversity KPIs? Second thing is your attitude really about being positive and curious about people from different gender, age, capability to hear everybody's voice, or creating a safe place where people aren't penalized if they were to speak up. And finally, is a more broader call is about identifying the unconscious bias that's entrenched in our culture and societal values versus a fundamental appeal to humanity equality. And so with this, I'm going to close with my final, my summary of what I believe what 9by9 is about. This is the year of the tiger. I see the research and the action as, we're crouching tiger, we're hidden dragons, we're looking at what we already have. And there's also recognizing the yin yang, there's, it's the silver linings from the last 2 years of the whole world at putting to a stop. It's about coming and looking internal. And next is actually, is there, leaping cat. So hidden dragon, crouching tiger, hidden dragon, leaping cat is to move, is to do something. And this is my my closing 9 mantra here, which is being the change, which is nag the interior. We all love nagging. Nag the inside. What do you really want from the inside? What do you want in terms of fairness, equality, voicing your needs, and nab the exterior? Go ahead and make the change. Do something, whether it's asking your partner to contribute more to the household work, or even your kids or your members of the team to respect and honor every individual's inner interior essence and values. So that is it. And this is my call for action. My interior and exterior is that I really believe that this is all for the next generation. And we are just this week launching a Generation Z research project with Yale NUS. And I call for help. Anybody who's interested to be part of the research, we're looking at making a major public event later this year at Yale NUS in Singapore. So contact me at this email address, my LinkedIn, and of course go to 9by9 also to download the report and look at our video. So that's my, thank you for my, that's my message, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, April. And reminder to everyone, thanks to please either type your question on the chat, or if you want to raise your hand so I can come to you. And April, maybe you can stop sharing so we can see everyone as we go to Q&A. I guess the first question, if I can, April, is really, what you said at the beginning, that McKinsey study reference with gender parity in Asia, it could add 4.5 trillion to the economies here in Asia Pacific. And so our organizations, our companies already seeing that business imperative for gender parity. And do you see any distinction with the response from global multinational companies versus local or regional companies here in Asia regarding, prioritizing gender parity?
Thank you, Elizabeth. Great question. Actually, in our survey, we found that 80% of the women were working for companies with 200 people and more. And of that, 50% were with regional or multinational companies. And so from that, it's just to say that there was enormous sense that their contribution can make a difference to the company's bottom line. sorry, to answer your question is that we do know that 60% of the SMEs in Asia contribute actually to GDP. So they hold a very big role. And one of the major challenge is actually about talent attraction and retention. And I think right now we're working with SMEs to say, in fact, in creating a more inclusive workplace, you will actually you attract better talent, retain longer, which hits the bottom line. And many of that talent is the hidden dragons, are the women with children, and giving them a voice and allowing them to to be leaping cats and deliver. And just to say, and this is also the focus of our Gen Z report. Gen Z is covering age 18 to 25, and we're having them identify what are they looking for in the future in the workplace, and many of them also point to the same factors for gender parity. So we're very excited to see that report come out, and we're expecting it to come out in June.
Yeah, I know that there are several HR managers of it are with us this morning. So if you have questions or follow up around that, but I'm seeing that as well, even within our company, of how gender diversity, because WOMAG, of course, are food and agriculture companies where traditionally we operate in a very male-dominated industry. So that is something that differentiates, I think, companies when you do have strong gender diversity focus. I'd like to turn to the actions framework, as I'm not seeing any hands, but please either put it on the chat or raise your hand through the reactions button, and I'm happy to go to you. But in the 9 action framework that you put together with actions for the organizations and the leaders, as well as the women themselves, now that you've laid that out, what's next for 9by9? I mean, how do you actually get these actions executed or incorporated by organizations into their gender diversity commitments?
Great, thank you. Yeah, so we have been, in our research, we've received enormous support in finding how helpful the research and the actions are. And what we are now working on is actually coming up with webinars and training modules for the managers and for companies, organizations, managers, and individuals. In fact, I think we're playing with a inclusion course for male supervisors. So these are action programs that are based on the 9by9 framework. And again, would certainly welcome anybody who's interested to either sponsor or even help create these programs. In fact, we are now talking to BASF, and they are launching a male supervisory program in India. And so we're looking at working with them to further tailor it according to the 9by9 framework and to the rest of Asia, perhaps also to the rest of the world. I see a few questions. I was also wondering if you do a poll, is given one of the biggest comments from the group is about recognizing achievement. And I have a poll about particular action in how you can be recognized for your achievement. Maybe you could throw that poll up, and then I'll answer the next question. There we are, yep. So yep. What are the factors that you have in recognizing my achievement?
Yeah, we'll keep the poll open 2 more seconds. Yeah.
Shows the result. This is a predominantly Singapore-based group. April.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, so this is what we again about unconscious bias. what we have found in Singapore in particular is that there's this perceived feeling that it's a meritocracy based. So it makes sense that 50% of the response is that people feel, oh, men and women have equal opportunity for the same job, and that my time and effort is recognized. There's the Singapore work culture is very clear about that. Again, I just want, and it's also it really makes sense that the fifth one, where you feel comfortable to ask for a pay rise, and that's really like a very that's a very difficult thing for many people, particularly for women, to feel that they can approach that. But all of these are actually in line with how do men feel, and this is, in fact, our next research. We will be including men in the survey, and I wanted to highlight that the unconscious bias, despite the meritocracy ethos, for some reason, there is equal opportunity, but perceived equal opportunity. But why is it? What's the gap? Why aren't there more? Why aren't there people taking more, empowering themselves to take those opportunities? And I think this is a challenge for all genders. Is really being confident about what you can do, and yeah, to act and to put yourself out there. And I really believe that the world needs people from all walks, in particular women. We need more women. How's it? The feminine voice, which I think would just bring some sanity to some of the craziness of the world right now.
April, I've got a couple of questions on chat. So sure. The first one from Anu Rao. I'd like to know whether digital parity and digital equal opportunities and impact was part of the report, given the huge role cyber plays in the post-COVID work environment. Was that a consideration at all?
Yes, good question. In fact, I see it's from Anne. So Anne, we actually, in our approaching the different countries, for China, India, given their vast countries, we actually strategically went to do surveys in Shenzhen in China, and also Bengaluru in India, precisely because we wanted to understand for those cities where the digital growth, digital commerce is so critical, and what we found is that we compared that with like Beijing, and also with New Delhi and Shanghai and Mumbai, and to our surprise, the difference was actually very little. The differences between the countries were much clearer. So definitely, we probably should do more research on that. But we felt that it was not as I thought it would have been more distinguishable, but it wasn't. So I think it comes back to whether it's a digital world or not, or even WOMAG or any industry. I think it still comes down to the individual, the organization, and managers to be committed to have more representation of the best talent, regardless of gender.
We have another question on the 9x9 framework. So the 9x9 framework is so useful for thinking about who controls gender equity in the workplace. It also seems that gender equity in community, family, society is an important part of why women have additional barriers to getting ahead. Is this included in your research?
Yes, thank you, Jen, for your very good question. We were very acutely aware of the issue when you talk about, and I think again, an issue, somebody else is talking about, particularly about maternity leave, about the family, the accepted and true role of a woman as being a caregiver for both children, to partner, to parents, and we actually did not focus in as much as we'd like to. Mostly, I'll say, is because of Asia, because of the tradition, and also because of religion. And this had us being more careful. Or for our first survey, we chose not to be. We chose not to delve in it as much as we'd like to. So thank you, and we do appreciate these are really important factors. I think another thing we did was we really wanted to see it from the individual. Most of the research out there is from the company, is from industry. We really wanted to hear the stories from the individual. like, how do you feel what makes your world a more equal place? And again, I think there's what's highlighted is the unconscious bias. I think many of us sort of say, oh, this is my given. I'm supposed to be a mom. I'm supposed to, I should do this. I should. And I think this really compromises the true inner potential and desire if you really actually want to do something bigger than your immediate caregiving roles. But those who want to is also great. I mean, I think the exercise there is as a woman, we have it's absolutely critical that we have this conversation with ourselves. Go, what do I want to do as a woman, as my capacity? What do I want to do? That's really my call. But okay, yep. Next question.
April, I actually wanted to follow up on that because you mentioned at the beginning that there are over 7,500 stories that you gathered as part of the research. Is that going to be something that you'll be sharing across, in the next few months from 9by9? So some of those stories also kind of are heard and amplify perhaps some of the challenges that we face, as well as some of the actions perhaps that some of the women are taking for gender equality.
Yeah, we are. You're talking about amplifying the story. So the Yale NUS project, a survey we've just launched, and as I say, we are earmarking September, October at the Yale NUS site to host a public event to share the stories, particularly of the focus from the Gen Z generation. We've also been looking at going into the arts, so maybe even to create a documentary movie. So if any of you guys are out there interested in this, please contact me. I believe in pulling on all media, anything that can, this is heart work. We're talking about heart work, about making people go, this is, we have talent, it's unequal representation, involvement, and we want to get involved, yeah.
I see a comment from Susan. Susan Knight is a member of our WOMAG Executive Committee. I pioneered job sharing and part-time flexibility in my organization over 20 years ago and feel that there's still little progress in this area. I'm quite sure there's still a need. With all the changes we're seeing during COVID, of flex time and all that, but job sharing also and part-time flexibility, are you seeing that trend right now increasing?
Yes, absolutely. And I think there is an issue to safeguard the pay and job terms for those who are job sharing and part-time. Again, I see to the Gen Z, they're one of their top goals in a desired job is actually job flexibility. In fact, they call it a gig economy. This idea that they're doing gigs, and I think that's part of. I think it's an undeniable trend of the hybrid workspace, and this is good for, honestly, not only good for women but also good for men. Fathers, sons who want to who don't have to feel shackled to a job that completely overwhelms them and wrings them dry and throws them out when they retire. And it's time for a new paradigm shift for everybody in the workplace. So I agree. Yeah. So keep up the good work that we have now. And then I do believe in going for low-hanging fruit. So yeah, marry it with like the 9by9 framework. We're getting a lot of traction. Dovetail with anything that's already happening, and together we are going to achieve gender parity.
Thank you, April. Maybe we have time for one last question from anyone.
Or I'm going to throw my other poll out. I wanted to have this be positive. I come through three IWD International Women's Day events, and sometimes I walk away feeling kind of almost sad, so can we just throw out my last poll, which is, if we do have a more inclusive world, but what would it mean? So can you throw?
Okay. Jessica, we'll throw the last poll and get everyone's input.
Yes, we have a poll here.
I always find it harder when it's a multiple choice. When you have
Yeah.
more than one. How are we?
Yeah, so we'll keep open 3 more seconds while still clicking in. Yeah, I think we are good.
Yep. It increases group intelligence as well as well-being. Well-being number one.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. This is
So-
really, and I think the interesting thing is about the well-being. I think this is more and more recognized about a need of, back to that 4.5 trillion, we need, for people to do their best, they have, there's a sense of well-being, and then around that is having better reasoning, better decision. And I'm delighted to hear that it's less defensiveness. This is actually the counter of well-being, is basically people become very defensive, and this, which is a toxic position to be in. So yeah, so thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you, April. Thank you for joining us and sharing your study, and look forward as 9by9 continues to work on this for new studies, as you said, with the Gen Z, but also with other ways that we can participate as you work on reaching those 9 goals to 2030. And for me, what as a takeaway for those of you who are listening, and as a manager, especially for those of us who are leaders or managers in WOMAG, I think that the fact that we have a big role to play, role modeling it and creating that culture for gender equality, I think is a great way to start as well. So I'll give it back. Thank you again. And I'll give it back to Jessica to close us out for the day. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth and April. It's really inspiring sessions to commemorate International Women's Day with WOMAG also. And yeah, so if you have further questions to April or 9by9, you can feel free to connect with them through LinkedIn. And next, I would like to invite Pris to just talk a little bit about our next event.
Yep, great. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Hi, everybody. Yes, I'm Priscilla from WOMAG's Professional Development Committee, and thank you, April, for such an insightful event. I learned a lot from the 9 truths, and also the call to action. And I think this dovetails very nicely to the events that we have upcoming. So in your point, one of your truths was mentioning about people finding it difficult to talk about DEI in their workplaces and championing it. And so we're pleased to share that we have a D&I workshop that we're organizing on the 21st of March. It will be a 1-hour session where we'll give you an overview of understanding what DEI is, understanding its importance to the workplace, what's the business case for DEI, and more importantly, how can you champion it and start those conversations at your workplaces. And and that would be actually a prelude to a 4-session inclusive leadership workshop, where we are gonna teach you more in-depth techniques on championing DEI in our workplaces. So I think these 2 events are super relevant for industry professionals, and more importantly, people managers who make a lot of change in shaping the DEI culture. So we hope we will see most of you and all of you there at our events, and please feel free to also share it among your networks.
Yeah,
okay, thank you, everybody. Sorry, April.
Can I just ask you guys to turn on your screen as a presenter? It's kind of just to see if you guys are live.
Can we say goodbye? Yeah, can
we
we
goodbye?
close?
That'd be so nice. Yeah. So if any of you are around still, to just turn on your screen, and be really great to say thank you. And my 9, basically, nag the inner and nab the exterior and have some action. So thank you. Thanks so much today for the time spent, and thank you very much for the WOMAG team. Very, very impressive group. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Everybody.
Yeah, I think if we also have a feedback poll, we can click it away before you leave. That we will really appreciate it. So maybe Fuing, if you can share the feedback. Yes. So yeah, this is the last thing, the last poll. So after you fill in the feedback, you can leave, and we're looking forward to see you again on our next event, which is on 21st March. All right. Thank you and have a good week to everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. See you, everyone.